Hi, this is Bob Harriman, and that's Brandon Jones, and this is the Global Dispatch Radio Network. Hey, buddy, how you doing today?
Oh, another great day, my friend. How are you?
Fantastic. And the media is and the politicians are in an uproar over the Donald Trump Vladimir Putin meeting. Let's not get into the uproar yet, but what are your thoughts on Trump's performance?
Well, okay, performance really seems out of his element. I mean, I think that when we take Trump for who he is, right? He when he's political and has to be diplomatic, he is at his worst, right? That's not where his comfort zone is. He's not a politician by nature. So from that arena, I think the press conference really just shines a light on his weaknesses there, how to handle that, speak through things, not walk into the bear traps and landmines of the press taking his words. And again, to them, words matter more than actions. So this was just a disaster waiting to happen. Now, for me, Trump treats this just like everything else. It's a business transaction. It's about relationships. It's about being a guy walking into the room to meet another guy, another alpha male. So this is what he views as the goals of the meeting like this are probably completely different than most of the other people around the experts they have on TV and the press and all of that. So it's just another interesting day at the life of President Trump.
Yeah, I clearly wasn't as concerned about it as everybody that I listened to on the radio and TV today. Trump he was being diplomatic. He gave off that appearance that he was giving away the bank, giving away the farm, but why be belligerent and force the issue about Russia meddling into the elections? We know they do it all the time. They're going to do it again, and we're going to keep on doing it. And any other country that has that capability is going to do it. So I didn't see any point in really pushing that the way so many people on TV did, because how are you going to get any diplomacy done if you're bickering about these things? So I thought I kind of appreciated it, and the fact that it's ticking everybody off makes me think he did the right thing.
Well, he can't do anything right. So think about the reaction there was to South Korea or North Korea, right? So he's meeting with North Koreans. It was about, he's going to go in there like a bull on a china shop and start a war. And now we have, with the Russians, he's not going in there strong enough. So he really can't win for losing.
Yeah.
And I think for him, when you talk about the Russian meddling in the election, for me, I don't think Trump can really parse out the 4 or 5 components of what the Russians did, right? So, one of the famous Dispatch articles that you and I have talked about for years now was I did a piece on Alexander Dugin. He talked about the Russians' goal of kind of even in the playing field with the Americans was about creating chaos in their society. We know there's money trails. We know that the hacking into the DNC, the hacking into the Democratic House Caucus server, we know that Podesta's emails, we know that there was actual, efforts to, use Twitter and Facebook, all of these different things. I don't think Trump cares about trying to delineate all that. He has his people to do all that. He's allowing the Mueller thing to work itself out because he knows that he didn't personally engage in any collusion. That's just my opinion of what I've seen so far. I've seen no evidence to contradict that.
Yeah.
So I think for him, when he gives any credence to any of those things, when he starts to go down the road that any of that stuff, then he starts to feel like, and exactly how I feel is why the press keep their foot on the gas is, it's about delegitimizing his as a president. It's about he stole the election. And anything he can do to keep away from that, that's where his ego comes into play. And that may be at the root of why he met with Putin and why the tenor of everything played out the way it did, because that is the bigger priority for him. A lot of these other things, got to be honest, I agree with Rand Paul. Rand Paul said this is just Trump derangement. Like, it just really just comes unhinged. Like, can't do anything right. And it just becomes, what could the president do? Many of these things the press are talking about, that's not for him to decide. It's not for him to do a whole lot. He's not going to be involved with sanctions. He's not going to be involved with treaties. I mean, they can throw lip service at each other like other administrations did, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. And I think it's just another. If he can just allow the dust to settle and not take all of this so personal, other than, he kind of stepped on some toes of the people that currently work for him, like Dan Coates, and I'm sure he can smooth all that out. I'm sure Coates is used to, the President Trump dynamic of what he says and what he means. So, at the end of the day, 6-8 months from now, are we really going to be worried about all this? Because I don't think so.
Well, I mean, our relationship with Russia has been pretty bad since Bill Clinton,
sure,
George Bush, and Obama. None of them really did any real good diplomacy. It was always, kind of, not so much with Obama, but kind of my way or the highway. And I read an article from Pat Buchanan today, and he said that Trump probably prevented Cold War II. So that's Pat Buchanan's words, not mine, but it's an interesting thought. And also, the thing I found, personally, I enjoyed so much is how much Trump totally freaks out, that deep state, that globalist, that the Davos crowd, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's a big blow to the Max Boots and the Bill Kristols and of the world, this Washington War Party, because these people are trying to justify $800 billion in military spending. So we need to have a hostile Russia. So that's just one thing I thought about it. The other thing is, this is Trump, on display, but behind the scenes, what has Trump done? He's done all the things that Bill Kristol and Max Boot would like, right? He's increased sanctions. He's the one that put defense systems into Ukraine. Obama never did any of that stuff. So Trump is actually, when you and this is the same with so many other issues. Trump is this blowhard on Twitter and on TV and all that, but behind the scenes, there's actually actions being taken. I may not agree with some of the actions, but a lot of these people that are complaining about Trump, that's the stuff they love. Anyway.
Yeah, words and actions don't always line up with Trump. He's definitely got a very different perspective of how he approaches his persona and his celebrity status versus what actually manifests in policy. And I couldn't agree with you more with the sort of Max Boot and this neo-conservative war machine. We saw John Brennan just completely unleash and Chuck Hagel and these people. I'm like, where were you for 8 years during Obama? You guys didn't do anything. You guys just sat on your hands and watched Russia just barrel into Crimea and the Ukrainian situation. And like I said, I expected more of this kind of reaction with the North Korea thing, because it seemed like that really was something that was being taken away from them. That was like an easy war. That was like an easy sell to the American people. We could destroy these people in 20 minutes. The Russian thing's a little bit different, and the American people are real uneasy about the idea of actual physical conflict with Russia. Sanctions are one thing. Using Syria as a proxy war playground is another thing. But starting to have face-to-face and all this confrontation. So I got to be honest, again, I feel I'm going to go back to where I stand. The media always overplays their hand with Trump. They always just go too far. They're exaggerating with their reaction. They're reading way too much into these things. Mm-hmm. And like you said, policy-wise, Trump's been pretty hard on Russia. That's part of the Germany thing, right? He he went after Germany of like, listen, you guys don't get to play both sides of the fence here. And I think that at the end of the day, like I said, we fast forward, other than the alleged rumor and this blind faith that because of the Russians, he stole the election. They didn't care about the Russians 6 years ago when Romney dropped it. Yeah. So the only reason they care about this is because they're hinging this mysterious phantom election from them.
Yeah. And just to close out on the hyperbole, I mean, people calling this high treason and all that. I mean, that just doesn't fly. There's no evidence to support it.
It's just nonsense.
Yeah, it's nonsense. So, I mean, I really wish that kind of talk would stop. And I have to say, I mean, I don't think Trump should have, he shouldn't have said anything. He shouldn't have said that I believe what Putin said about the Russian spying. Everybody knows it was done. Everybody knows. I mean, it doesn't matter how influential his words were to you, Mr. Trump. Your intelligence community is already telling you that, yes, it did happen. It's happened before. It's going to happen in 2018. So there's no reason to say that, Putin is telling me the truth. He could have just let it go. He could have said, yeah, we talked about it. Yeah. He denied it. I disagree with him, but we're moving on. And anyway, that's really all I got to say about that. You got anything more to say on that, Brandon?
No, man. I'm so sick of the Russian dead horse, man. I'm on to the actual hacking parts and some new stuff that's coming out there that maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll get into. But when it comes to all this, I'm just so over all of this.
All right. So what other stories have caught your fancy?
Oh man, I tell you what, I don't know if you caught eye of this, but man, the progressives and the socialists, the alt left, as I've called them now for the last couple of years, have now backed Kevin De Leon against Dianne Feinstein, and really the whole Democratic machinery in California. And I think that right after the 2016 election, I think it was very early in 2017, we did a piece on California, and the people that they put in place in Democratic leadership were all, they call themselves Bernie Bros. So all the Bernie Bros moved up into status, and the establishment Democrats were replaced. So now those Bernie Bros are putting all the leverage, putting all the votes, putting all the machinery behind Kevin De Leon. In California, it's a very strange open primary system for a Senate seat, and that just the top two people, whether they're in the same party or not, are the ones that face off. So basically, Kevin De Leon, this socialist, alt-left individual, and he is the stereotypical Bernie bro, will be taking on Feinstein, and all of the leverage is behind him. And you can't argue with the rationale, even if we disagree with all the policy. It is, well, she's just too old. We need a younger person. We need someone to appeal to the millennials. We need all this stuff. Feinstein turned 85 this year. So we're supposed to elect. So, I mean, literally, it's just insane. You and I have talked about this, that there was, when you and I did a little quick look, that was a couple of years ago, there were 8 senators at 80 and over, and now there's probably more like a dozen or so. Feinstein's 85. So what, she's going to be 91 when she would leave? I mean, this is crazy. So, yeah, keep an eye on that California race, man. It has changed on a dime.
Yeah, and that's no surprise to me. I did a show a week or two ago about Ocasio-Cortez up in New York, and I said on the show, I'm like, this may not be the overwhelming trend in 2018, but go out 2 or 3 elections from now, this is what we're going to start seeing, because they're offering everything. And that's what people want to hear. They want everything. And look, watch Twitter. The socialists are just so hilarious, but they want everything. And I'm actually going to talk about a tweet in a few minutes, but this is the new trend. The old guard, the Feinsteins and the Joe Bidens, all them, in 4, 6, 8 years from now, it's going to be all Bernie Sanders. That's where it's really headed.
Well, I especially will agree with you if Trump wins. Obviously, 2018, we're really close. We see a few of these races where this has come into play. But if we go to 2020, and we see right now the Democrats have got nothing lined up, right? The youngest candidates that are ever talked about have become, like, they're really laughingstocks. I'm really sorry, and I'm sorry if I'm offending any of the viewers even more than I normally do, but Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are the 2 names that always float to the top, and it's just laughable. It's so ridiculous. So there are no real good, big-name young players coming out of the Democratic side. So let's just assume, to be the devil's advocate here, Trump wins in 2020, then yeah, gloves are off, full-on socialism, full-on Marxist. You'll see a crazy shift. This old guard can't do it. They can't win. They've let Trump win again, blah, blah, blah. And you will see, by the time you get to that midterm, Trump's Congress will be in jeopardy, because I think it will be full-on. These millennials will be older. Some of those college kids, this Generation Z, will be now coming into play, and you'll see just, I mean, crazy races and a crazy movement, in my opinion. And again, we're all assuming all the other pieces of the equation stay sooner. This timeline could speed up if we have economy crashes or something like that.
But the one thing is, Dianne Feinstein has a lot of power and a lot of money, so it'll be interesting to see if this is going to play out as the socialists would like. Hey, Brandon, you remember Michelle Wolf, right? She was the lovely featured entertainment at the 2018 White House Correspondent Dinner. This vile, vile woman. Apparently she has...
you used the word... That's the first time she may have ever had the word lovely as an introduction, just so we're clear.
Yeah, but apparently she has a Netflix show called The Break.
Yes.
I never heard of it before, but I did catch a clip of a segment that she did called "A Salute to Abortions," and you have to wonder what kind of depraved mind do you need to do something like this. So essentially, in here, she goes over, 5-6 points concerning abortion, whether, abortion doesn't stop a baby from happening. And, being pro-life means you're, in favor of allowing human beings in the womb to live, but not, other people. You don't care about childcare and education and all that other nonsense. And she just goes on and on and on, just all kinds of horrible things. But she kind of, towards the end, she closes with, yes, abortion should be easy. You shouldn't have to wait or do anything. It should be just going to McDonald's to get one. And the crowd just laughs. And I mean, that was the scariest thing to me.
That's the disturbing part of this, by the way. That's the disturbing part to me.
The fact that you can make such light and such jokes over the murder and the slaughter of a human being, like as if you're going to get a Big Mac. Again, depraved. She's just a very, very vile woman, and I don't have a lot nice to say about her. Anyway, what do you know about this? You know anything about this?
Well, I pretty much just know exactly what you said, but let me say this to Michelle Wolf. You're disgusting. You dare to call yourself someone who cares about women and women's rights and women's issues. Okay, even studies, let's just assume that you agree with abortion, and let's just assume that's the case. Read the studies. Even women that go into this and are okay with doing this admit to having several months of some post-traumatic stress syndrome. They show bouts of depression. Some women go through years of therapy, things like that, years of regret. So it is not something to be laughed off as about getting a sandwich at a fast food restaurant. That is just disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself. We can have healthy conversations about policy and how we can disagree, but to treat it the way you're treating is just shameful.
Yeah, and the other kicker is many of the statements that she mentioned throughout that video, and we'll link to the video, though I really don't want to, but just so people know what I'm talking about. Just about everything she says is anti-science. I mean, it's just so off. So, Michelle, if you're listening and you would like to discuss this issue, I'd be glad to talk to you either on the break or on this show. Anywhere.
I mean, I did an interview with people from the pro-life march, so the March for Life, and we interviewed people who talked about the seminar on adoption, the seminar on foster care, the seminar, all these things that they allege and they say they don't know anything about. They don't fact-check any of that information. Mm-hmm. The pro-life movement are pro-life people. They are people that are engaged with families, engaged with helping people. And if anything, I tell you what, Michelle, you want to help? Then help me figure out ways to gut the adoption red tape so we can adopt some of these kids that do get born and aren't wanted. Mm-hmm. I'll be more than happy to party with that. Can we agree on that, maybe?
There you go. All right. Let me go over a quick tweet and a quick announcement, and then we'll go into the movie review. On Twitter, it's just such a gold mine for nonsense. There was I don't got the name in front of me, but it was a Democratic socialist, and they tweeted, "Remember, babes, there's nothing moral about work, and you have a basic human right to food, water, shelter, and health care, among other things, whether or not you work." Now, how many things are wrong with that statement? First of all,
other than the word, I don't know. Babes is condescending, so we can say that's out of it. In the Me Too generation, we shouldn't even use the virtue signaling. There is very inappropriate. So all the way down from babes on, it sounds like that was inappropriate and completely wrong. It's such a fallacy to believe we all owe you all of these ways to survive, but you don't actually have to work. It's a very strange. I really don't know how to explain that. I can't even get my head around how far it's literally become a delusion. Like they don't even know anything about democratic socialism. Literally, I go back to your Ocasio-Cortez video, and all the comments are about how you're being attacked because you don't know the difference between socialism and democratic socialism. We have to go back and we're trying to parse all of that nonsense out. And here we have a situation where, well, you shouldn't have to work, but you do all this stuff. Well, who's giving you all this stuff? Who's going to work to give you all this stuff?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
so
exactly.
it's so frustrating.
I mean, if there's nothing moral about work, and we all just decide to simply loaf around and exercise these rights of shelter and health care, who's going to pay for all the stuff you have a right to? That's really a question. And the other thing is, work is profoundly moral. So I don't know where they're coming from, but this is the Ocasio Cortez mentality that's spreading throughout, particularly the younger generation. One last thing is I just want to make a quick announcement. I saw on Tom Wood's email today, about 4 hours ago, that he had dinner with Judge Napolitano the other night over at the Mises Institute, and the judge said his show Freedom Watch is coming back on TV. So we're very excited about that, and we're looking forward to more announcements on that. All right, Brandon, you got a movie to talk about.
Oh, I wish I could tell you it's a good one. It's the third Hotel Transylvania movie. I know you're not a movie fan. Have you seen any of the first two films?
No.
Okay, so these are animated films. The animator, it's got ties to Dexter's Laboratory, so the art's a little different than some of the mainstream Disney or Pixar approaches. This one's about a bunch of the classic monsters, the Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, those kinds of things. They're voiced by Adam Sandler and his posse of friends, which involve Kevin James and all of those group. And the first film involved Dracula's daughter falls in love with a human and they get married, and the second one they had a kid, and so the third one is Dracula's kind of getting lonely and overworked, so the daughter contrives a reason to take him on a cruise to get away for their summer vacation, and then he's, quote, lonely, so he's going to look for a woman, and the captain of the ship is a female, but she's secretly the great-great-granddaughter of Van Helsing and actually hates monsters, and it is... Well, first off, I'm going to bash on Sony, and Sony, if you were ever listening, please, run your trailers by me so we can stop spoiling every one of your movies with trailers. If you see Sony come up on screen, folks, don't even watch a trailer, because odds are what you're seeing is the entire film. So everything was ruined in the promotional footage. There's very little that you will find entertaining about this film if you've seen the trailers. And sadly, there's not a whole lot to be entertaining anyway, because it's really, really just a really bad conceptual film with just tons of cliches, bad Adam Sandler jokes with his weird, quirky voices. It's just really, really bad. I'm sorry. I gave it a 1.5 stars, and I'm probably being generous. I just don't understand it. I don't understand the concept of you can just love and marry and be with whoever you want. Just this universal messaging for kids is just really not good and doesn't offer any substance at all of why. There's no one ever talk about why, just because. And then the idea of love at first sight and all the nonsense that goes into that, even if you have people from, polar extremes that don't like one another, suddenly they're going to be thrust together and that will give them happiness. It was just a really bad film. So, I don't know. Maybe your kids will like it, folks. I would recommend something else. Go see Incredibles again, because Incredibles 2 was at least decent.
There you go. So 2 weeks in a row, Skyscraper and Hotel Transylvania. Didn't get 2 stars. So, all right. Any final thoughts, Brandon, on any news, any things going on?
No. I think it's just a nice, a steady week to keep an eye on the political side of things, see how that shapes up. I wanted to ask you, do you know who won the World Cup?
I do. France.
Oh, okay, good. All right, we'll see. You never know. We're not sports guys. No, we actually do know these things.
No, but
it's funny how we.
I'm totally surrounded by the World Cup at work, so I'm forced to know it. So, look, we just kind of move through. There's a lot of steady headlines on the Dispatch to keep up with some of the different things here and there. Obviously, the politics right now is actually kind of intriguing because there are really a lot of important things happening, even though the press continues to want to talk about everything. And we head into midterms. There'll be a lot more polls, a lot more information coming out on some of these different races, and a lot of stuff's at stake. So that's what we'll be working on. There you go. And if you want to check out more news and views, check out theglobaldispatch.com. Again, that's theglobaldispatch.com.